This past Sunday, daylight didn't matter when an afternoon fight broke out near the light rail platform at 5th and Hennepin. Watch as a young man is kicked repeatedly in the head. He tries to get up only to be kicked again. Police are called and his attackers run away.
Tim Christopher, pastor and community activist, will be joining us later on to talk about the crisis in our community. We're Kendall and Sheila Qualls, and this is Fully Charged.
You know, you're right. That you coined that phrase, a culture in crisis, because that's exactly what we're seeing. More than any time in our history, the behavior in our public square has just gone totally crazy and toxic in our own communities, in the Black community, and in the community of our fellow Americans. It has gone totally toxic. In fact, there's a statistic here in our state that we represent less than 10% of the population, but account for 76% of the homicides. And that's a problem. And it's been a problem for a long time. So what we're doing, we're asking other leaders in the Black community to join us in helping to address this issue. This is not a government issue. This is not a police issue.
Not a racial issue.
And it's not a racial issue. This is a problem we need to solve, restoring families, holding people accountable, and getting our schools in order.
Joining us now is Tim Christopher. Tim is a minister at Berean Missionary Baptist Church in downtown Minneapolis. He's been working with inner city families since 1992. Welcome. Thank you for joining us today. And can you tell us a little bit about your inner city ministries?
Yeah, first off, thank you guys seriously for giving me this opportunity to be with you guys today. I so appreciate you guys. Much respect for both of you. The Berean Missionary Baptist Church has been through an evolution somewhat in trying to get out into the community to help those who need help. Pretty much is what we're dealing with. I myself consider myself to be someone who speaks for the unspoken, the poor, that people turn their backs on, don't think about, things of that sort. And for these kids, for these gang kids, trying to pull as many of them off the streets as we possibly can, get them to a better place and let them know that, rolling the dice and hoping and praying to get to 21 shouldn't be where their mindset is.
Tell, you and I have spoken, we disagree on some issues, but we agree on one thing about this fatherless home crisis that we have in our communities. How can we align on that?
We agree about a lot of things, I do believe. I mean, we sat down and you and I had a very productive conversation together, and I thank you for that. I so appreciate you. Education plays a huge part, right? I think we all can agree on that. Education plays a huge part when it comes to even the fathers in the home. A lot of times, you got young kids who are not understanding that they got a whole life in front of them. And let's not go out there and try to play mom and dad early. Well, you got 14 and 15-year-old kids, right? Having babies.
Yeah. Well, and this is why, I think galvanizing pastors in our communities is got to be the place it starts, because this is a moral issue, not a policy issue. We have to reteach things that used to be the norm when we were growing up. And I think a collaboration amongst the pastors in the community and us working together to help re-educate would be something that is needed. And what do you say on that?
Oh, I'm 110% with you on that one. I mean, you are definitely right. And I'm just going to talk about the Black church right now. The Black church has gotten away from doing what it should be doing. When I was growing up I was born in 1964. So in 1965, 66, 67, 68, all the way through 70, we were going to church. Man, I got my first pair of shoes that I can remember from the church. I got my first pair of jeans that I can remember from the church. The church was huge in the Black community. And somewhere, a lot of Black pastors start thinking that they need to drive around in a really nice car. They need to have the best suits there are. They need to have big chains and rings on their finger. And they got away from the community and doing the things in the community and the values that the church has in the community. And that's what hurt the Black community a lot. Even teaching young men, the deacons, think about it, the deacons in the church, teaching the young men how to be fathers, doing things of that sort. We have gotten away from that. The Black church have failed the community in ways that I can sit here for over and over and over. And I'm part of that. Don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong.
Well, you know what? And before I go to you, Sheila, because this is your cue. First of all, I want to commend you for someone from clergy to say that about the clergy is usually unusual. It is really unusual to do that. First of all, I want to commend you for that, because until you can admit you have a problem, you can never fix the problem, right?
That's right.
And God bless you. I think that is the first step for us to do something collaboratively. And I believe that, again, we can do this leading as men and women in our communities to get this turned around, so our kids can expect, number one, there's that successful pathway is education first, married, and kids afterwards.
That's right.
Right now we have it all reversed.
That's right.
Yeah, absolutely. We're speaking of education. We are going to talk a little bit about school choice. Brandon Tatum recently spoke here in Minneapolis. We had him at our annual gala, and he talked about his personal journey from getting arrested at 8 years old because he was smoking dope in like a vacant house, and he was just making all the wrong decisions. And he attributed his father and education for his success in life and the turnaround that he had in life. So education seems to be a piece that we're missing, as we were just talking about. Our kids are stuck in these failing schools, and we need to give them an opportunity to succeed. So what's your position on school choice?
I'm 110% about school choice. When we lived in North Minneapolis, right there on 3rd Street, my wife and I drove my kids all the way to Hopkins every single day to go to school because I refused to put them into the Minneapolis school district. So we were school choice all the way back in 95, 96, 97. So I didn't ask, for vouchers or anything. I took my kids over there. That's what I believe. I totally believe that a parent should have a right to choose a school that fits their kids and go to that school. I'm not about the school unions at all. I think they hurt the kids. I think all of this money that every year they keep pumping into these schools is just not helping. Now, you got to remember, not remember, but I can tell you my Sunday school class apprised of some of the kids who go to North Minneapolis. I've got kids in there that I can hand my 10-year-old grandson the lesson plan for Sunday. He can read that without a problem. I hand it to some of these kids. They can't read that. And they're going to graduate next year. This is sad.
Here's the thing I'll say about us as citizens. When we want significant change in our communities, it's never the politicians never lead this. They're not the first ones. It was Mothers Against Drunk Drivers, MAD, that changed the DUI laws. It was, Martin Luther King and other civil rights leaders that changed the civil rights movement, changed for the new civil rights laws. And it's going to be the same thing here. It's going to have to be parents and leaders in the community that create such a momentum that the legislature say, we can't ignore this anymore. We have to give these school choice. And you could have potentially your church can actually be a school for some of those local kids with money going to following them to wherever the parents decide they should go to school.
Yeah, and ultimately, I really think that it is up to the parents to make sure that their children are educated. As a mom, I may send my kid to school every single day, but it's my responsibility to make sure that my child can read and that my child can do math. So I think that's not happening. It's not happening in the homes, that reinforcement that we need to see. Because like I said, ultimately, it really is our responsibility as parents to make sure our children get what they need.
Which is true. And I understand what you're saying. But then we also got to look at the poverty level that these kids put themselves into also. Not making excuses, don't get me wrong, but I see things that may make it hard for a lot of these here. You got a single, like we were talking about, single moms, right? So you got a single mom, she's got 2 kids. Right? She's got to get on the bus line to get to school, to get to work. She's hoping and praying and crossing her fingers that her kid goes to school, right? She gets a call, hey, Tony is not in school today. What should we do? Well, now she's got to wait till she get home to take care of him while she's cooking dinner, making sure food's on the table, taking care of her other kids, trying to get that kid to get his homework and everything done. Like we started this off talking about having fathers in the home, and that's one of the reasons why it's important to have fathers in the home. But then I also see that second tier of why kids are where they're at when it comes to school, things of that sort.
How do we move forward collectively together in our own communities to drive behavioral changes, even if we have to start with educating our elementary school kids, our young boys and girls, starting there with an expectation, and then helping those that are teenage years and higher on behavioral changes as well.
Well, you hit it, boom, right on the head.
You said that our people look to the government. Shouldn't our people be looking to our churches? I mean, this kind of takes us back to the very beginning of this conversation. Our people shouldn't have to look to the government. They shouldn't expect to look to the government. They should be looking to the churches in our community.
That's right. Boom, bingo. You're dead right. And what I have seen, I first walked into Berean Missionary Baptist Church in 1997, a broken man, broken up, broken down, a broken father, a broken everything. And through my journey with the church and to the point to where I'm at right now, you're right. We should be looking to the churches. The Black churches should be leading in every single way, shape, and form. We should not be looking to the government and getting grants and getting huge stipends of money that we don't do anything with. You're dead right. Sad part about that, it's not happening.
Right. You know what, Tim, you're speaking to it, and you're speaking to one of the problems, and I wrote about, is that we don't have enough of Berean Missionary Baptist churches in our communities. And
right.
in a large part, we have failed families. To your earlier comment, the Black pastors have failed Black families. It's not the government's charge to make sure that we bridge that gap. It's we have volunteers with Take Charge that come from broken families, fatherless homes that have done it on their own. They got married and then had kids later. They're working blue collar jobs. They're working whatever they can to provide for their families because they want their children to have a very different life than their own. That's normative. That's what's supposed to happen. And that's what we're trying to get back. We're not pointing the fingers at anyone about their behavior. We're trying to figure out, how do we get back to basics? God first, family next, and getting a better education for our kids.
And then how do we align around that?
I think we all three are on the same page.
Yeah. Well, Tim, I want to thank you for joining us. You've been very candid with us on this, and I really do appreciate your participation and joining us. And we look forward to future conversations. Let's let not this one be the last conversation.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh, for sure.
Thanks so much for joining us. And thanks for watching Fully Charged. We created this podcast to counter the narrative and to give you another side of the story that you never, ever hear. If you like this podcast and if you believe in what we're doing, please consider subscribing, giving us a 5-star rating. But most importantly, please share this podcast with your friends.
And that's it for this edition. To find out more about our work, go to our website at takechargemn.com. And please consider supporting us. Your support helps us spread the message, And we'll be back next week with more of the perspective you never hear.